Buying a property in Italy is not the dream move you think it is. At least, not yet. I've seen Americans arrive and fall in love with a beautiful old stone house, sign the papers, and 6 months later, they realize wrong town, wrong region, wrong neighbors, or wrong property for the life they actually wanted. The problem isn't Italy. Italy is everything you hope it is. The thing is, you can't know this from the outside. And property in Italy does not work like in the US. The process is slower, the protections are thinner, and the mistakes are permanent. There is one move that almost every successful expat I've talked to made before they bought. And almost every person who regretted buying skipped it entirely. There's a particular kind of madness that happens when Americans or foreigners discover Italy. It usually starts with a trip to Italy, maybe Tuscany, maybe the Amalfi Coast, maybe it's a small hill town in Umbria that you stumbled upon on a Wednesday afternoon. The light is golden, the wine costs €4, a stranger invites you to sit down, and somewhere between the second glass and the sunset, you start to think, why am I not living here? You get home, you open Idealista, and there it is. A 3-bedroom stone farmhouse with original features, a terrace with a view, a price tag that would barely cover your garage in LA. €140,000. You screenshot it, you send it to your spouse, and then you lie awake at night doing the math. This is FOMO, but not the social media kind. This is deeper. This is the feeling you have that you've been living the wrong life, or maybe the wrong place. And Italy is the correction. And that feeling is not wrong. Italy is extraordinary. The lifestyle is real. The value is real. The opportunity is real. But FOMO is a terrible reason to sign a property contract in a foreign country. Because what FOMO does is compress your timeline. It makes you feel like if you don't move fast, you're gonna miss it. Maybe someone else will buy your farmhouse. Maybe the price will go up. Maybe the windows will close. So you skip steps, you skip research, you skip the reality check, and you go straight from dreaming to signing. Here's the reality though. The stone farmhouse you fell in love with, it will almost certainly still be for sale 6 months from now. The Italian property market moves at a completely different pace than the American one, or pretty much the rest of the world. There's no bidding war, there's no offer deadline. Properties sit, they wait. And if your specific one is gone, there are hundreds like it in the same area. Many of them better, many of them cheaper. The inventory in rural and southern Italy is enormous. So the urgency you feel is real. The deadline is not. Before I get into that one move that changes everything, if you are at that stage where Italy is a serious move and not just a dream, I put something together that could save you months of research. It's called the Italy Retirement Blueprint. It's a book with 18 chapters that cover everything you need to know before you move. Taxes, visas, healthcare, cost of living, property, and how to choose where to live. Plain English, no fluff, instant download. Follow the QR code, and I'll also leave a link in the description below. A lot of people who watch this channel have already got it, and if you haven't yet, now is a good time. And I've also left a couple of free gifts in the description as well, so look it up. An American couple visits Puglia in July. The towns are alive, the markets are full, the piazzas are buzzing until midnight. They find a trullo, you know, the iconic white cone roof houses that look like they came straight out of a fairy tale. €180,000. They make an offer for 150 and they fly home. After a couple of weeks, the offer is accepted and they complete the purchase remotely. When they arrive in November, the town is empty, the restaurant they loved is closed until Easter. The neighbors they met at summertime have gone back home to their apartments in Bari. The Trullo is cold, damp, and needs a new heating system that nobody mentioned, and they don't know a single person within 30 kilometers. A town that feels magical in August can feel abandoned in February. A town that seems quiet and charming can turn out to have no services, no English speakers, and nowhere to buy groceries without a 40-minute drive. Italian properties are optimistic. Need some renovation can mean anything between a fresh coat of paint to a complete structural rebuild. The Italian buying process is not like America. There are two contracts. The preliminary agreement, called the compromesso, where you typically hand over 10 to 20% of the purchase price. And then there's the final deed, the rogito, which can be months later. If you pull out of the compromesso, you do lose your deposit. If the seller pulls out, they will owe you double what you put. So the process is slow, the protections are thinner, and once you're in, you're in. People buy the Italy they visited on holiday. They don't buy the Italy they lived in on a Tuesday in January where the heating breaks and the plumber doesn't speak English and the local comuna is closed for a local holiday nobody told you about. None of these means don't buy. It does mean don't buy yet. So what is the right move? Rent first. I know you've heard this before, but I'm not talking about renting as a waiting room for the time you're looking for the real house. I'm talking about renting as the most important research tool you have at your disposal. Let me show you what renting actually gives you. First of all, the Italy you visited in June is not the same Italy you live in December. Renting for a full year or a minimum of 6 months that include winter shows you who actually stays, which restaurants survive, if the town has a pulse in February, or whether it quietly hibernates until the tourists come back. You think you want a remote hilltop village, and maybe you do, or maybe after 3 months you want a walking town, a bar you can get to on foot, a market twice a week, a train station. Maybe you thought you'd be fine without a car, and maybe you're wrong. Maybe you thought you need to be near a city, and actually you love the silence. Renting lets you find this out before it's written into a property deed. If you're looking at old properties, and most of the beautiful ones are old, renting a similar property first tells you things no viewing ever will. How cold does the stone get in winter? How the heating feels? How does the humidity feel? What does it actually cost to heat? What breaks? And how hard is it to fix? You're not testing a town, you're testing a way of life. And then there's the aperitivo. This is the one nobody writes about in the property guides. In Italy, between roughly 6 and 8 in the evening, something happens in every town worth living in. The bars fill up. Same people at the same tables with the same order. The retired doctor, that guy who fixes everything, that woman who knows everyone in the valley, the local counselor, and maybe that one person who will in the future become your closest friend in Italy. You cannot meet these people on a scouting trip. You cannot meet them in a week or even in a month. But if you're renting, if you're a regular, if you show up on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, if you learn like 5 words of Italian and use them badly and you make people laugh, they will adopt you. I actually left a link in the description, or you can follow this QR code for a free Italian glossary I put together with the most useful words and phrases you might need to get along in Italy. Make sure you download it. Those 5 words in Italian matter much more than you think. And most importantly, those people who tell you things no real estate agent will. Which buildings have problems, which areas flood, which landlord is impossible, which notario is slow, which town is changing and which one is dying. This is intelligence you cannot buy, but you can earn it by being there consistently over time. That is what rent gives you that no amount of research from overseas ever will. And lastly is the peace of mind. When you're renting, you can leave. If the town isn't right, you finish your contract and you go somewhere else. If Italy itself turns out to be something else, something completely different than what you thought, and for some people that does happen, you haven't lost 150,000 euros. The people who bought with confidence, the ones that have no regrets, almost all of them did the same thing. They rented first. They found their town, they found their people, and then when they bought, they weren't buying on hope. They were buying on knowledge. And this is the difference. So you decided to rent first. Excellent. Now let's talk about how you do it right. When you first arrive, a short-term furnished rental makes sense. It gives you flexibility. You're not committed to a 12-month contract. So once you've tested the town for 1 or 2 months and you're convinced it's the right place for you, you can move into a longer contract, and that will give you a more genuine sense of what living there actually feels like. You're not in a holiday apartment anymore, you're a resident. Your rental period is not a holiday, it's a research with a glass of wine in your hand. And here's what to look for. 1. Infrastructure. How reliable is the internet? That matters enormously. If you're working remotely, or if you run any kind of online business, or if you have family abroad that you want to video chat with. How frequent is rubbish collection? What are the roads like in winter? Is there a doctor in town, or do you have to ride 40 minutes for every doctor's appointment? Then the neighbors. Not just whether they're friendly, though that matters, but who they are. Then there's the noise and rhythm of the town. Every Italian town has its own rhythm. Church bells, market days, festival seasons, construction schedules. Some people love it. Some find the church bells at 7 in the morning less charming after 3 weeks. So try to find out before you buy. And then services. Can you get what you need within a reasonable distance? A supermarket, a pharmacy, a bank, a hardware store. This sounds basic, but people tend to underestimate how much it matters on a daily basis. Especially if you don't have a car or if you don't want to drive. Now the property market itself. While you're renting, start looking. Not to buy it, but to learn. Walk into local estate agents. See what's available, check what 150,000 euros can get you in this town compared to the town next door. What are renovation costs like locally? What are the geometra and lawyer people recommend? You're pretty much building a picture. By the time you're ready to buy, you'll know this market much better than most people who've been trying to buy remotely from overseas. And one more thing, try to talk to the people who've already bought. Every expat community in Italy has them. The people who did it. Those that made the mistakes and now are completely honest about what they do differently. Buy them an aperitivo, ask them anything, they will tell you everything. So you rented, you know the town, you know the neighbors, you know what 150,000 euros can actually get you. Now you're ready. Here is how the actual buying process works in Italy and what you should get right from the start. So first, get your team together before you make the offer. Don't make the mistake of finding a property, falling in love, making an offer, and then frantically looking for a good lawyer. So you need 2 people working for you before you even come close to making any offer. The first one is an independent lawyer. Not the agent's lawyer, not the seller's lawyer, your lawyer. someone who reads Italian contracts, understands Italian property law, and has no interest in this deal closing other than it being right for you. The second person you need is the geometra, which is a surveyor. Italian properties, especially the older ones, can have cadastral irregularities. This means the official records don't match the actual property. Maybe a wall was moved, maybe a room was added, a terrace was enclosed without a permit. These irregularities are your problems as soon as you sign the contract. The geometra will find them before you commit. And then you have to understand the two contract process. Again, buying in Italy has two stages. The first one is the proposto d'acquisto, which is the purchase proposal. This is an initial offer, sometimes accompanied by a small deposit. This is the opening move. The second is where it gets serious. This is the compromesso, the preliminary contract. When you sign the compromesso, you are legally committed. You will typically hand over 10 to 20% of the purchase price at this point, and if you pull out after this, you will lose this money. So walk away clearly with full understanding of what you're signing. The final stage is the rogito, the deed of sale, which is signed in front of a notaio, a notary, which is an official Italian post. And this is when ownership transfers. The timeline between the compromesso to the rogito is between 3 and 6 months, and sometimes longer. This is Italy. I started this video with a warning. Buying property in Italy is not the dream move you think it is. At least, not yet. Buying property in Italy done right, done patiently, with your eyes open, is one of the best decisions you can make. The people who got this right were the people who moved the slowest, who rented first, who found their house not in Idealista, but at a bar on Tuesday evening in November, who learned those 5 words and made people laugh, who showed up consistently until Italy didn't feel anymore like a foreign country and started feeling like a home. And then they bought. Not with hope, but with certainty. Italy rewards patience. It always has. If you're building towards that, seriously, not just dreaming, 2 things before you go. The Italy Retirement Blueprint has a full property chapter that walks you through the costs process, what to watch for, and how to approach the buying process with a clear mind. Again, QR code or link in the description below. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, there's a lot more coming on this channel about what it takes to make this move perfect. Now, if you're coming from America, watch this video because you should know about this stuff.